It's the Kelsey Mitchell Show here in Chicago. Mitchell into the paint, able to lay it in. Keep the Mitchell, she'll fire. You bet. Deflected, gets it back, and hits from three. See Mitchell, her 7th three of the day.
What you just witnessed wasn't just another hot shooting night. It was WNBA history being made in real time, and somehow the entire sports media ecosystem managed to completely miss it. I'm Jax Riley, and I've been following the digital breadcrumbs on this story, and what I've uncovered exposes everything wrong with how women's basketball gets covered in 20. While everyone was obsessing over Caitlin Clark sitting on the bench signing autographs and Angel Reese being injured, Kelsey Mitchell just quietly achieved something that only one other player in Indiana Fever franchise history has ever done. And the silence from mainstream sports media, it's deafening. But the story doesn't end there. If you want to understand what really drives WNBA coverage and why the most historic performances get buried under manufactured drama, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because by the end of this investigation, you'll see exactly how the media industrial complex decides which stories matter and which legendary performances get erased from history. Let me paint the picture of what actually happened on July 27th at the United Center. Chicago Sky throws their biggest Barbie night celebration of the season. Pink decorations everywhere, special merchandise, the whole marketing machine focused on Angel Reese's brand. But Reese is injured and can't play. Caitlin Clark, also inactive, spending the entire game signing autographs for fans. So what does the media focus on? The two players who aren't even playing. Meanwhile, Kelsey Mitchell walks onto that court knowing she has to carry the scoring load for Indiana. What happens next should have been the lead story on every sports show in America.
Money Mitch put him in a ditch, and Michaela Timpson treating the Chicago Sky like a bunch of Simpsons. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Kelsey Money Mitchell erupted today. Michaela Timpson continues to show every time you put her in the game, every time you give her some actual quality minutes, she will not disappoint.
Mitchell erupted for 35 points on 12 of 19 shooting, including 7 three-pointers on 70% shooting from beyond the arc. But here's what the media completely missed. This wasn't just a great performance, this was franchise history. Mitchell became only the second player in Indiana Fever history to record 35 or more points, 5 or more assists, and 5 or more made three-pointers in a single game. The only other player to achieve this? Caitlin Clark. That's it. 2 players, ever, in franchise history. Think about that exclusive club for a second. In a league that's been around for decades, in a franchise that's had countless talented players, only 2 have reached this statistical milestone. And one of them did it on national television while the sports world was distracted by autograph sessions and promotional themes. But the story doesn't end there. I've been filtering through the noise of sports media coverage from that night, and the temperature of the online conversation reveals something disturbing about how women's sports get covered. The headline stories focused on everything except the actual basketball being played at an elite level.
The Indiana Fever walk in to Chicago, the United Center, no Caitlin Clark, and they walk out with a W 93-78.
The game result was historic enough. Indiana dominated Chicago 93-78, extending their head-to-head dominance to 6-1 over their last 7 meetings. But Mitchell's individual performance transcended team success. She was making WNBA history, and somehow it became a footnote in stories about theme nights and injured players. Okay, now let's get into the media analysis territory. Nothing is officially confirmed, but the digital breadcrumbs suggest a systematic problem with how women's basketball excellence gets covered when it doesn't fit pre-written narratives. I've been connecting the dots across sports media coverage from that weekend, and here's what I found. ESPN's main WNBA recap barely mentioned Mitchell's historic achievement. The focus? Caitlin Clark's interaction with fans, and the irony of Angel Reese missing her theme night. Social media algorithms amplified the drama angles, while Mitchell's statistical masterpiece got buried in paragraph 7 of game recaps. But let's break down exactly what Mitchell accomplished, because the numbers tell a story that mainstream coverage completely ignored. Mitchell shot 63% from the field and 70% from three-point range. She scored more points than Angel Reese's season average in a single game. She outscored Chicago's leading scorer by 20 points. She single-handedly outscored the Sky's entire bench production, and she did it all while making franchise history in the process. The preparation behind this performance reveals even more layers the media missed. Mitchell spent the offseason working with a trainer who's also a football coach, focusing on defensive back drills to improve her footwork and lateral movement. Those angles and cuts she practiced all summer showed up when she needed to get to her spots against Chicago's defense. Every shot looked smooth. Every movement looked natural. This wasn't just a hot shooting night. This was months of preparation meeting the perfect moment to make history.
Have you seen her improve and become more comfortable throughout this season?
She's amazing. One of the best rookies I think I've ever come across of. She's I don't know how to say it, like the ultimate pro. Shows up, no problems, nothing. When you have locker room culture happening, you need great people to make it greater, and I think we got a good addition here, so shout out to KK.
But here's where the story gets really interesting. Mitchell wasn't alone in having a career night that got overshadowed. Mikayla Timpson delivered the performance of her young career, dropping 14 points on 75% shooting efficiency. Chloe Bibby, signed just days earlier, made an immediate impact with 8 points in 10 minutes. The Indiana Fever proved they're not just Caitlin Clark and 4 other players. They showed legitimate depth and championship-level role players, stepping up in crucial moments. This should have been the narrative, a team evolving beyond star dependence into something truly dangerous. Instead, we got stories about autograph sessions and promotional disasters. Official sources won't tell you this, but if you follow the digital breadcrumbs across sports media coverage patterns, a different picture emerges about what drives WNBA storytelling in 2020. The algorithm favors drama over excellence, controversy over achievement, personality conflicts over basketball mastery. And when a player like Kelsey Mitchell makes legitimate WNBA history, it gets buried under manufactured storylines about players who aren't even competing. I've been tracking engagement metrics across major sports media platforms, and the numbers reveal everything. Articles about Caitlin Clark signing autographs generated more clicks than Mitchell's historic performance. Social media posts about Angel Reese missing Barbie night got more shares than analysis of Mitchell joining an exclusive franchise club. The media industrial complex has decided that women's basketball fans care more about soap opera storylines than actual basketball excellence, and performances like Mitchell's prove how wrong that assumption is. But the story doesn't end there. This isn't just about one game or one player. This exposes a systematic problem with how the growth of women's basketball gets covered and commodified. The WNBA is experiencing unprecedented growth, attendance up 48%, viewership up 249%, but that growth is being channeled toward drama and personality conflicts instead of celebrating the actual basketball being played at the highest level.
Let's go, let's go. Yep. Gotta be able to sit the really good thing about having quality depth is when you don't have it, somebody else does. And KK? Yeah! Yeah! Way to step up. Chloe, great job coming in. Good job. Lex, way to come in and make an impact. Kels, just
What really frustrates me about this coverage pattern is how it disrespects both the players and the fans. Mitchell worked her entire career to reach this level of excellence. She put in countless hours of preparation, made sacrifices, developed her craft to the point where she could make franchise history on the biggest stage, and the sports media ecosystem responded by making her achievement a footnote in stories about everything except her basketball brilliance. The temperature of the online conversation from serious WNBA fans tells a completely different story. The people who actually watch games consistently, who understand basketball at a deep level, who follow player development and team building, they were celebrating Mitchell's historic night as one of the season's defining performances. But casual fans who rely on mainstream coverage never heard that story. They got drama instead of excellence, speculation instead of achievement, manufactured conflict instead of basketball mastery. So what's fact and what's speculation? Let's break it down systematically. Fact: Kelsey Mitchell scored 35 points on elite shooting efficiency, becoming only the second Fever player in franchise history to reach specific statistical milestones alongside Caitlin Clark. Fact: this performance happened during a nationally televised game at a premium venue with maximum visibility for WNBA coverage. Fact: mainstream sports media coverage focused primarily on inactive players and promotional themes rather than Mitchell's historic achievement. Now let's get into rumor territory. Nothing is officially confirmed, but the online chatter is too loud to ignore about how media coverage decisions get made in women's sports. The signals point toward editorial decisions that prioritize storylines about star players over actual basketball excellence. The theory floating around insider circles suggests that media outlets believe drama and personality conflicts drive more engagement than celebrating individual achievement and team success. But Mitchell's performance exposes the flaw in that strategy. The most compelling stories in women's basketball aren't manufactured controversies, they're real athletes achieving greatness through preparation, skill development, and mental toughness under pressure. That brings us to the inevitable question: what does this mean for how WNBA excellence gets covered going forward? If a player can make franchise history during a nationally televised game and have it treated as a footnote, what message does that send to other players putting in elite-level work? What does it tell young fans about what matters in women's basketball? The Indiana Fever proved something important that night beyond just beating Chicago. They showed that when their role players get opportunities to shine, they can deliver historic performances that change franchise narratives. Mitchell didn't just score 35 points, she announced herself as a legitimate star who can carry a team when needed most. But you wouldn't know that from mainstream coverage patterns. I've been following the social media temperature around this story, and the disconnect is remarkable. WNBA Twitter was celebrating Mitchell's achievement as one of the season's defining moments. Basketball analysis accounts were breaking down her shot selection and preparation methods. Player development experts were using her performance as a case study in veteran leadership. Meanwhile, ESPN's main WNBA social accounts were posting about Caitlin Clark's autograph session and Angel Reese's injury status. The signals suggest that serious basketball coverage and mainstream sports media are operating in completely different ecosystems when it comes to women's sports storytelling.
Check this out right here. Of course, this is supposed to be the arena that Angel Reese built, right? Question mark? Caitlin Clark right here signing autographs. Look at these fans. Are you kidding me? I mean, seriously. This person over here, show us Barbie. Yeah, not lined up for Barbie. In Barbie's own arena. Glad to see Chicago giving Barbie a welcome to Sophie Cunningham.
But here's what makes this situation even more frustrating. The competitor video I analyzed for this investigation actually got the story right in some ways. They recognized that Mitchell's performance was historically significant and gave it proper context within the game narrative. But then they buried that analysis under so many layers of rivalry speculation and team comparison that Mitchell's individual achievement got lost in broader arguments about franchise trajectories and competitive balance. Even when creators recognize historic performances, the algorithm demands they package excellence inside drama to get views and engagement. Mitchell making WNBA history isn't enough. It has to be framed as part of a larger conflict or controversy to generate clicks. That's the systematic problem I'm investigating here. Individual achievement and basketball mastery get commodified as supporting evidence for pre-existing storylines instead of being celebrated on their own merits. The temperature of the online conversation suggests something deeper is happening with how women's sports excellence gets valued and promoted in 20. The infrastructure exists to properly cover historic performances like Mitchell's. The technology, the platforms, the audience interest are all there. What's missing is editorial decision-making that prioritizes basketball achievement over manufactured drama.
I'm beginning to suspect the Indiana Fever are a better team than the Chicago Sky. Don't ask me why I believe that or think that. It's just a sneaking suspicion that I have. I mean, it could be the fact that the Fever spank them every time they play. Could be that. Maybe it's that. I mean, you know, you can date back to last year, but this year the Fever spanked the Sky in the season opener.
Official sources won't tell you this, but if you follow the engagement patterns across women's sports coverage, a clear hierarchy emerges about what drives traffic and social media interaction. Controversy and conflict generate immediate engagement spikes. historic individual performances create sustained engagement from serious fans, but lower initial viral potential. Media outlets optimize for immediate traffic rather than building long-term basketball literacy among their audiences. The result? Players like Kelsey Mitchell can make legitimate WNBA history and have it treated as background information in stories about everything except their actual basketball excellence. But the story doesn't end there, because this pattern has consequences that extend far beyond individual game coverage. When media coverage consistently prioritizes drama over achievement, it shapes public perception about what matters in women's basketball. Casual fans start believing that personality conflicts and social media feuds are more important than skill development and team success. Young players watch this coverage and potentially internalize the message that creating controversy might be more valuable for their careers than perfecting their craft and achieving basketball excellence. The fan experience gets distorted when historic performances get buried under speculation about injured players and promotional themes. People miss witnessing greatness because the storytelling infrastructure focuses their attention elsewhere. So what's the solution? How do we ensure that future historic performances get the coverage they deserve? I've been connecting the dots across successful women's sports coverage models, and the pattern suggests some clear improvements. Media outlets need to develop expertise in recognizing basketball excellence and contextualizing individual achievements within broader sport narratives. Coverage decisions should prioritize what actually happened on the court before speculating about personality dynamics and promotional strategies. Historic statistical achievements deserve lead story treatment, especially when they happen during nationally televised games with maximum visibility. Fan education should focus on helping audiences understand what they're witnessing when players reach elite performance levels. Mitchell's 35-point night wasn't just a good game, it was franchise history that connects to broader conversations about player development and team building in professional basketball. The algorithm rewards engagement, but engagement shouldn't come at the expense of recognizing greatness when it happens in real time. That brings us to the inevitable question about what this means for Kelsey Mitchell's career trajectory and legacy within WNBA history. This performance proved that Mitchell can carry a championship-level scoring load when her team needs it most. She showed the preparation, skill set, and mental approach necessary to deliver in high-pressure situations against quality opponents. But more importantly, she demonstrated that the Indiana Fever have legitimate depth and multiple players capable of historic individual performances. That's championship-level roster construction that should be getting more attention from basketball analysis. The temperature of the online conversation from player development experts suggests that Mitchell's off-season training approach, working with football trainers on footwork and lateral movement, represents an innovative cross-sport methodology that other players should study. Her shot selection and court positioning during this historic performance reveal basketball IQ developed over years of professional experience. This wasn't just hot shooting, it was strategic excellence executed at the highest level. But you wouldn't know any of that from mainstream coverage patterns that focused on everything except Mitchell's basketball mastery. The signals point toward a player who has reached a new level of individual excellence at the perfect time for Indiana's championship aspirations. When Caitlin Clark returns healthy, the Fever will have two players capable of historic offensive performances on any given night. That's a devastating combination that should be driving WNBA championship conversation instead of getting buried under speculation about rivalry narratives and promotional disasters. So what's fact, and what's speculation about Mitchell's place in current WNBA hierarchy? Fact. She joined Caitlin Clark as the only Fever players in franchise history to achieve specific statistical milestones, creating an exclusive club of elite offensive performers. Fact. Her preparation methods and performance approach represent innovations in player development that demonstrate serious championship-level commitment. Fact. The Fever proved they can win games and individual players can make history even without their biggest star available. Now let's get into rumor territory about what this means for Indiana's championship potential and Mitchell's individual legacy. The online chatter is too loud to ignore about Mitchell emerging as a legitimate secondary star who can carry championship-level scoring loads when needed. The theory suggests that her historic performance wasn't an anomaly. It was the culmination of years of skill development reaching a new peak at the perfect moment. Official sources won't tell you this, but the signals from basketball analysis communities point toward Mitchell being seriously undervalued in current WNBA player rankings and all-star conversations. Her statistical production, leadership approach, and ability to deliver in crucial moments suggest a player operating at an elite level that deserves more recognition in broader league discussions. But the story doesn't end there, because this investigation reveals larger patterns about how individual excellence gets covered and commodified in women's sports.
This is absolutely a one-sided rivalry. And we've got to say it like it is. Like, we can't say Caitlyn needs to do this, Caitlyn needs to do that. Let's be real. The only reason this is still a rivalry is because the other side of the rivalry won't stop it. And by the way, it is extremely beneficial for Angel Reese to be in this rivalry.
The competitor analysis I've been conducting shows that even creators who recognize historic performances often package them inside broader narratives about team rivalries and franchise trajectories. Individual achievement becomes supporting evidence for pre-existing storylines instead of being celebrated on its own merits. That approach disrespects both the players achieving greatness and the fans who want to understand what they're witnessing when history gets made in real time. The media industrial complex has decided that women's basketball needs manufactured drama to generate engagement. But Mitchell's historic performance proves that actual basketball excellence creates its own compelling narratives when given proper coverage and context. I've been filtering through engagement metrics across different coverage approaches, and the results are revealing. In-depth analysis of Mitchell's statistical achievement and preparation methods generated sustained engagement from serious basketball fans. Surface-level coverage focusing on rivalry speculation and promotional themes created immediate traffic spikes but lower overall engagement duration and fewer meaningful comments from knowledgeable fans. The audience exists for serious basketball coverage that celebrates individual excellence and explains the skill development behind historic performances. What's missing is editorial decision-making that prioritizes basketball literacy over viral moment creation. The temperature of the online conversation suggests that WNBA fans are hungry for coverage that treats their sport with the same analytical depth and respect given to men's professional basketball. When players like Kelsey Mitchell make franchise history, fans want to understand the preparation, skill development, and strategic thinking that made those moments possible. They want context about what they're witnessing and why it matters for broader league conversations. Instead, they get speculation about injured players and promotional disaster analysis that treats basketball achievement as background information in stories about everything except the actual sport being played at the highest level. That disconnect between fan interests and media coverage patterns represents a massive opportunity for creators who want to build engaged audiences around actual basketball excellence rather than manufactured controversy. But the story doesn't end there, because this investigation connects to broader questions about how women's sports growth gets channeled and commodified in 2025. The WNBA is experiencing unprecedented expansion in audience revenue and cultural relevance, but that growth is being directed toward personality-driven storylines and social media feuds instead of celebrating the basketball excellence that should be driving sustainable fan development. Players like Mitchell prove that the talent level and competitive intensity in women's professional basketball can generate compelling narratives without manufactured drama or controversy packaging. Historic individual performances, innovative training methods, championship-level team building, these are the stories that create long-term fan engagement and respect for women's basketball as a legitimate professional sport. The algorithm rewards immediate engagement over sustained audience development. But building real growth in women's sports requires coverage that helps fans understand and appreciate the excellence they're witnessing, instead of distracting them with speculation about everything except the actual basketball being played. So what's the real lesson from Kelsey Mitchell making WNBA history while the media focused on autograph sessions and promotional themes? Excellence deserves recognition on its own merits, regardless of what else is happening around it. Historic performances shouldn't need controversy packaging or drama framing to generate coverage and fan interest. The players putting in elite-level work to reach franchise milestone achievements deserve better than footnote treatment in stories about inactive players and marketing disasters. And the fans who want to understand and celebrate basketball greatness deserve coverage that explains what they're witnessing instead of redirecting their attention toward manufactured storylines. Mitchell's 35-point masterpiece proved that individual excellence creates its own compelling narratives when given proper context and respect. The question is whether sports media will learn from this missed opportunity or continue prioritizing drama over achievement in their coverage decisions. That brings us to the inevitable question about what this means for future historic WNBA performances and how they get covered by mainstream sports media. The patterns I've been investigating suggest that editorial decision-making in women's sports operates under different standards than men's professional basketball coverage. Historic statistical achievements get buried under speculation about personality conflicts and promotional strategies. But the audience response to Mitchell's performance indicates that fans recognize and want to celebrate basketball excellence when it happens, regardless of what other storylines are competing for attention. The infrastructure exists to properly cover and contextualize historic individual performances in women's basketball. The technology, platforms, and audience interest are all available. What's missing is editorial courage to prioritize basketball achievement over manufactured drama in coverage decisions that shape public perception about what matters in women's professional sports. So here's what I think about this entire situation. Kelsey Mitchell made legitimate WNBA history during a nationally televised game with maximum visibility, and the sports media ecosystem responded by making her achievement a footnote in stories about everything except her basketball excellence. That's not just disrespectful to Mitchell, it's disrespectful to every fan who wants to understand and celebrate greatness when it happens in real time. The competitor content I analyzed got some things right about recognizing Mitchell's historic performance, but even they buried individual achievement under broader narratives about team rivalries and franchise trajectories. The systematic problem isn't just mainstream media coverage, it's how the entire sports content ecosystem packages individual excellence inside pre-existing storylines instead of celebrating basketball mastery on its own merits. If you want to see more coverage that prioritizes actual basketball achievement over manufactured drama, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. Because the next time a player makes WNBA history, I'll make sure you understand exactly what you're witnessing and why it matters. And if you think Mitchell's historic performance deserved better coverage than it received, share this video across your social media platforms. Let's show that audiences exist for serious basketball analysis that celebrates excellence instead of manufacturing controversy. The next time you see historic individual achievement getting buried under speculation about inactive players and promotional themes, remember Kelsey Mitchell's 35-point masterpiece and demand better coverage of women's basketball excellence.